Hi everyone, so today I want to start the series that it will be going from May into June, I believe, on floral watercolor videos. So I'm going to take my inspiration from various botanical books, and so this is called Botanicum, and it has some really interesting pieces here. So it's like the history of the plant, and you can learn a lot. So the first chapter that starts basically teaches you about the first plants that existed. So this chapter here, sorry, it's such a huge book, it's a struggle to fit it in. So here is a beautiful spread of different plants. Now, I'm not intending to copy every single plant, but I want to take an inspiration of the shapes, and that's what I encourage you to do as a floral study. So look at something, look at the structure, look how these little stems connect, how they grow out, at which shape, how thick they are, the texture of them, etc, etc. So that's essentially what I want to do today. So first of all, I'm going to pick a few watercolors and give myself a limited watercolor palette, right? So what I need to do for that is I'm going into my swatch book, which has all of my watercolors. So I'm looking for yellows and greens. I'll probably pick a couple of them. Now I'm also going to look into colors that are tubes, come out of tubes, and or I can squeeze them out with a pipette. So this one, for example, is one of my favorite sub greens. This is the Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus watercolor. It's a lovely green. So I have got here. So for the tubes, I need to go into my Daniel Smith and my Schminke. I hope I swatched out all of my Schminkes. The sub green, that looks pretty interesting. So I'm going to get a green Apatite Genuine, Prussian green, and green gold. Okay, so here we go. I have now pulled out couple of the colors that I just showed you. So here's the green Apatite Genuine. There is the nickel azure yellow, which I decided to use. I'll show you in a minute. Green gold and lemon yellow, which actually the picture that I looked at has a little bit of that. So here, no, you can't see. Oh goodness, I need like a second desk here. I swear to God, I just have no more time, no more space left for any of this. My hobby keeps growing and growing. Right, so here is the nickel azure yellow, which is gorgeous yellow compared to Indian yellow over here. Ta-da! Look at this. They're both beautiful. Indian yellow was my favorite yellow before I discovered nickel azure yellow, but both gorgeous. So I'm going to use, did I use both? No. So nickel azure yellow and then lemon yellow, because it's not my favorite color. However, it's great for, on its own, it's not my favorite, but it's great for mixing. So definitely good to jazz up a little bit of a green and turn it into a more warm one. Now, quinacridone deep gold is this one here. And that's right here. And it's great to mute down or make greens more earthier. Actually, I think it's the Prussian green that I was interested in. So I'll keep it like that. So basically I have all Daniel Smith with the exception of Dr. P.H. Martin's. We'll see what we do. You start by looking at your subject matter, picking the colors that you will use, and that actually, if you haven't used watercolors in a while, that will reignite that passion for watercolors. I personally haven't used my watercolors from the tubes in a really long time, as in fresh from the tube, and there's a big difference of squeezing it out and letting it dry into a little pan. Alright, so next thing you need to do is pick your brush. Pick your favorite brush, and when I mean favorite, literally whatever you are most comfortable working with. So I'm going to go for the Jackson's Quill brush today. This is 10-0. Simple, easy, lovely. I don't like throwing watercolors out, so if I over squeeze something, I tend to then just keep it for ages and try to use it up. So today I'm going to try and squeeze out the very minimal that I can. And also the way I'm going to do this is by going clockwise on my daisy dish. I'll try to link you to this daisy dish. It's just so cute. It really is a great size. I finally found the perfect size. I had a plastic one, which is this one, and it just doesn't feel great. I use it now for inks and things like that, so I don't really mind ruining it up because it stains and all that. But ceramic just doesn't stain, and it just feels so gorgeous. The wells are perfect size. I don't like anything too big, and equally too small also is cute. The smaller dishes are cute, definitely, but just maybe not as comfortable. So let's see, green gold is up next. And so again, I started with a lemon yellow by Daniel Smith. All of them are Daniel Smith except for this one. Nickel Azu yellow. Next one is Quinacridone deep gold. And this one was green gold. And now I'm going to put the sap green. So I'm going to mix it up like that because sometimes they settle. So that's kind of a little bit of a disadvantage to these watercolors, but sometimes that's what you need to do. You really need just a very little, so a drop will go a long way. And then there is the green Apatite Genuine. And then lastly, I mean, you could argue that this isn't a really limited color palette. This is Prussian green, but I just kind of felt like it, and that's, at the end of the day, that's what watercolor should be like. It should be about fun, picking your favorite brush, picking your favorite sketchbook, colors, whatever you feel like in the moment. That's when you really start to enjoy art. Okay, so I've got some dry bits and pieces, which I'm not too bothered about. And so the next thing we'll need is some sort of a tissue, but I now moved on to these flannels or kind of like muslin cloths. You can find them for the baby in the baby sections, like in supermarkets or whatever. They're great because they're really good size, and then you can just fold it up and keep it nice and neat. I find it feels good to wipe your brush on this rather than a paper. I'm going to use my Stillman and Birn hardcover. This is the ring bound one, and I haven't worked on it in a while. This is my kind of botanical work in here, and when I had more time I was doing more work in here, but unfortunately I don't at the minute. So this was the last entry, and I don't know what time this was. This was 24th May 2018, so almost a year ago. Okay, so I've got two different papers here. This is a cheaper paper because I tried to cover up something I didn't like, and I'm going to do it on this paper today. Now the thing that you have to decide is, do you want the drawing to be visible or not? So for the illustration that I'm going today, it does require putting some sort of lines down before coloring it in. So that's something you have to think about. And then once you decide that, then you need to pick what medium you're going to use. So it could be some gel pens, it could be some fountain pens, whatever you feel like, but keep in mind that you will add watercolor afterwards. So whatever you pick to do with now, the ink will go into that watercolor and it will affect it. So It might be in a good way, might be in a bad way, so but you have to be prepared. I'm going to go for this ancient copper, and it's a lovely brown ink. For it, I'm going to use this super fine comic dip pen, and that's what I'm going to do. So I've got the illustration open on the armchair next to me, so I'm going to just pick have a little pick on there once in a while, just to see what I'm doing. And like I said, the intention here is not to copy an object or subject, but the intention is to be inspired by certain shapes, textures, etc.
I wasn't clear. No, it hurt you, but I still care. No, I miss you laying near. Did you wrong and it wasn't fair. If I could go back, then I would treat you better. If I could just change my words like in a letter. I did some things, but I wasn't clear. No, I did it wrong and you did it right. Yeah, that's what you said when you started the fight. We came to an end, I put up this fence. But do you really mean that this is the end? 1, 2, 3 years of silence. Then 4, 5, 6, still nothing.
Okay, so now let's get some water ready and do the watercoloring, which is my I was going to say that's my favorite part, but now we have a little bit of a situation going here. So, as you can see, the ink has spread a little bit, which is to be expected from a water-soluble ink. So you're going to get that ink flowing into the watercolor that you're going to apply, which is just so much fun. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to moisten these watercolors, and I'll have a little spray into one of each colors. That will help them to just start kind of moving about a little bit, as you can see. And now I will start painting. So the darkest bit seems to be this bit here. So I might start with that. I want you to see what I'm doing here with the watercolors and how I'm mixing them up. So we need a little bit more water. And I will go into this quinacridone color. And you can see how beautiful this green has become now. So I'm going to... This brush is a little bit too big for this size of the illustration, so that's why I will be washing away a lot of the colors, but it is what it is. So wherever I'm touching the brush onto this ink, this is where it's going to flow into that watercolor. I'm going to take some of this lovely yellow and mix it in with this Hydrus watercolor. Now Hydrus are very dominant, so whatever you're going to mix into them, they will slightly overpower that color, so keep that in mind, but they will separate beautifully. I'm also going to touch these two together because I want there to be a nice bit of a flow. Now I'm washing the brush out and trying to dry it out on a napkin before I'm going to just touch the side of the stem. Now you might find the subject matter slightly peculiar because it's very unusual, but why not, you know, learning something about history of botanical plants and how things were originated. I find that personally quite interesting. So this color here, which is the gold green, is quite similar to the color I just mixed up using lemon green and that sub green, which is okay. So sometimes you'll find, like I said, the ink doing such a beautiful job that you won't need to do much else other than just making it blend in. So over here we have got a little sparse area. So I'm just going to continue with the stalks and every time trying to mix up an interesting color. As you can see, you need very, very little. And that's all I'm doing. Creating different shades of the same color always is big bonus in watercolor. That's what makes things really fun. So if you feel like the watercolor is a little bit opaque or too pigmented, so you have too much pigment and not enough water, then use a clean brush to pick that up, because you want to see the transparency, the paper coming still through rather than just a very dense watercolor. So here you can see it's starting to dry up, so I'm just going to do a little glaze. And then next thing we're going to do is go into this green, and if you think it's a little bit too intense compared to the other colors you already have going, again take a clean brush and just wipe that color a little bit like so, and that makes it better immediately. So I haven't used this, well, I have used it in the beginning, but I'm going to use it again, this color in the middle here, and I'm going to put that right at the bottom. And again, use a clean dry brush just to move the watercolor a little. Okay, so in the picture that I'm looking, it seems that we have this lovely kind of almost yellow, no, that's too green, like yellow type of color. And of course it won't be that yellow because of the ink there, which doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go into the lemon yellow, which is the lightest one, and just really quickly touch it, so don't blend as much of the ink around, but it will happen anyway, as you can see. And I'm also losing my detail that way, so try to be very quick, very precise with the placement of the watercolor so that you still keep the detail. Like I'm just going to do it here. Hopefully that will be a little bit better, like so. Okay, so that's good. Next thing we're going to do is the yellow, or sorry, the green of the flower. Now the other yellow bit is the center, so I am going to, let's see, I'm going to create a bit of a green, just going in and just touching it in some areas like so. Again, mixing it up here and there with some other shades and tones. I want a little bit more green. There we go. So if you find your green is getting lost, mix up a bit more of a green color and just dot it in some of these areas, and that will bring it slightly back, because in essence we want to keep the little bit of detail of the flower from the ink, but we don't want it to be too detailed, if that makes sense. So now I need to somehow put the yellow center into here, which will be a little bit challenging because, yeah, so I'm just going to dab it in a little bit right there because of the ink. But I do like how it all looks together. So the next thing that I'm going to do now is create some sort of shadowing. And for shadowing, what's best to use is some sort of dirt on your plate, watercolor plate. Let's see. So I've got some here. I'm just going to mix it in with some of this brown. And if I really dilute it into like nothing, that should be our shadow color. Now I picked up some purples now in here. So make sure you mix it real good. And I'm going to make sure I really have it as watered down as possible. And then just literally creating a little bit of a shade here and there. And the best thing to do is not to overdo it, I find. Also try not to make any mistakes like touching the actual flower, because that will move into it, the ink or the color. So I'm just going to bring in some shadow all around. So that just kind of sets it off a little bit from the paper. That is our piece ready. So I hope you found this useful and I hope you enjoyed it. This is just, you know, a way of looking at plants that aren't usual or aren't just growing on your doorstep, and yeah, using your watercolors again in a fun way. So this is it. It looks really lovely. So try to experiment with inks that are water soluble and are other colors other than just black, because that would not create this beautiful mix. It would just dull things down and darken them significantly, and that's it. But using a colored ink, that creates a really interesting effect. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up, or give the thumbs up to the video rather, and that is it. See you soon.